I recently spoke about a meeting with Colombo member Gary Gugliaro, which in itself is an example how members can speak to one another without a formal introduction by a third party. As mentioned, when I told Gary I could have our friend Joey come before we spoke, he immediately understood what I meant. The problem at hand was with the nephew of someone I was dating and Gary's son. And it was Danny Katea's grandson who told me that a crew of Colombos were waiting to lump the kid up. In fact, they even knew the kid was supposed to show up with a guy named Joe who was going to get it as well. For the record, the kid that had the problem was not my associate. I just intervened because of his aunt. Ironically, this kid's father happens to be the guy who I mentioned in the previous video that Ernie Grillo told me was secretly meeting with former Gambino associate Joe Valero after he cooperated. I remember Ernie calling the father a fat piece of shit. Again, for the record, the father was always okay with me. Anyway, in this situation, I tried to do the right thing and prevent further drama. Even with that being the case, in that life, you really need to pick and choose your battles, as well as the situations you choose to get involved in. I went to see the kid after I spoke to Gary, and he went into a very long story of what took place. He did thank me, but I had the feeling I wouldn't hear the last of this. So as no good deed goes unpunished, not long after, I received a message that this kid called the cops on Gary's son. To put that kind of news into further perspective, I stepped up for this kid, and Gary honored my wishes and left the kid alone. So there I was learning that he allegedly called the cops on the guy's son, which in essence is a total reflection on me. Naturally, I was pissed, but found myself in a unique situation because of the aunt. After all, it was her nephew. So I go see this kid again and explain to him what I've heard. He tells me that Gary's son broke windows on their house and that they had videos of him doing it. Now at this point, my head's spinning because this too is wrong. Gary and I put this nonsense to bed, and now there's destruction of property and the cops are involved. According to this kid, it wasn't him, but his mother who went to the police, and it's her name on the report. I explained to him that it didn't matter who went to the police, the finger is pointing at him and making me look bad. I also told them that the charges or allegations needed to be dropped. As soon as I left him, I went to see Joey Amato and told him to let Gary know that once I heard the cops were called, I was no longer involved. I'm not sure what took place after that or if the charges were ever dropped regarding Gary's son. Staten Island's an area where you could literally throw a rock and hit a wise guy, thus turning most situations into serious ones.